Hey guys, Kev here. Welcome back to the channel. Jason Schreier wrote an excellent article, and we're just going to talk about it. Players have too many options to spend $80 on a video game, and he is 100% correct. As Xbox announces a price hike, the year's best reviewed games are all budget titles. So two interesting facts. Number one, Microsoft Course Xbox this week announced it'll sell some of its upcoming video games for $80, a hike from the previous standard of $70, which itself was a hike from $60 just a few years ago. This has come in the wake of Nintendo's announcement last week that the new Mario Kart game for Switch will be $80. Xbox was vague in its explanation, but there are a lot of potential reasons for the price hike, including President Trump's trade war, fearing looming recession, and pressures from Microsoft that have been growing for 2 years now. Xbox also raised the price of its consoles and accessories. And fact number two, the three highest reviewed games of 2025 so far, according to review aggregation website Metacritic, are Clair Obscur Expedition 33, Blueprint, and Split Fiction. Those games cost respectively $50, $30, and $50. Clair Obscur is a dazzling role-playing game developed by a small French studio. Blueprint is a brilliant puzzle roguelike that was largely made by one guy in Los Angeles. And Split Fiction, published by Electronic Arts, is a cooperative multiplayer game made by a smallish team in Stockholm. All three appear to be commercially successful. Clair Obscur sold 1 million copies in its first week, while Split Fiction sold 2 million copies, and sales figures for Blueprints are not available, but the numbers on Steam appear to be strong. Perhaps it's a coincidence that the best rated games of the year just so happen to be budget titles. But I think the two facts above point to something else. A critical flaw in the video game industry's operations that has contributed to its plateaued growth and widespread layoffs. The cost of making video games has skyrocketed over the last decade. Estimates that the cost of AAA games or AAA productions have swelled from an average of $128.2 million in the early 2010s to an average of $440 million today. An increase that has not been coupled with consumer growth in players or sales. A AAA development has entered the danger zone where content bloat, not innovation, drives cost to unprecedented heights. This is one of the reasons Xbox and other big publishers are looking to sell games for $80 to help make up for the rising cost and lack of player growth. But it's also a risky move. For players, there are more options than there have ever been before, including a number of online games that are free to play. Convincing people to spend $80 before tax on a single game might be a tough ask, especially when the best games of the year so far cost $50 or less. Hiking up prices will cause players to be even more selective in their game choices, which certainly won't lead to more growth. Grand Theft Auto 6 and other top titles can certainly get away with it. But can the latest good but not so great game from Xbox? Now, that's Jason's quote right there. And I'm going to asterisk that because I'm going to throw PlayStation, Nintendo, EA, Ubisoft, all of them. They all, I think they all deserve that same question. No, I'm not sure that any big name publisher's game is worth $80, but let's continue. Clair Obscur, Blueprints, and Split Fiction are three very different titles, and they have a lot in common. They are all clear, focused games made by relatively small teams with specific goals. All three use commercially available technology, the Unreal and Unity engines, rather than reinventing the wheel in expensive ways. Some of them need to sell 10 million copies, or none of them need to sell 10 million copies to make up for a bloated budget. So they can all take risks that wouldn't be tolerated on a $200 million project. The risk-taking is the primary driver of their success. Clair Obscur embraced turn-based combat, which many companies see as antiquated. Blueprints is full of puzzles and mysteries that most players will never see, a risk that big-budget games could never take. And Split Fiction is a co-op game that requires two people to play and is full of ambitious gameplay mechanics. All three of these top rated games are designed for a very specific type of player rather than trying to appeal to everyone, which is something you can only afford to do if you're not spending nine figures to make a video game. It's why the developers of Clair Obscur popped champagne after selling 1 million copies, while EA declared Dragon Age the Veilguard a failure for hitting similar numbers. Another thing you can only afford to do if you are not spending nine figures to sell a game is sell a game for $50 or $30. Is it a coincidence that the best reviewed games of 2025 are all cheaper than normal box products? Maybe. But it's also evidence that smaller scale and focus can equate to quality. Best of luck to Xbox and anyone else who tries to sell games for $80, but with countless people worried about the economic landscape and the continued uncertainty around Trump's tariffs, turning games into a luxury good may prove to be a fatal mistake. Now, my first opinion just on this article, Jason's mostly talking about Xbox, and Jason, from what I gather, always kind of slants toward PlayStation and the way he does this stuff. So I'm gonna, like I said, throw this. When I'm looking at this, I'm looking at all the big name publishers. Sony says, yeah, we're not raising our games to $80 yet, but that's yet. And they did recently do a price increase to PSN in Canada, and they also raised the price of the PS5 itself in New Zealand, Wales, and Australia recently, if I recall correctly. But Jason's overarching point is correct. The top rated games of the year are budget titles, and they're high quality titles that people generally like. And this has been a trend going on that I've noticed for at least a decade. When you see, games like Pillars of Eternity do really well as a Kickstarter product. When you see a game like The Witcher 3, which has all of the AAA spectacle, but isn't attached to a big name publisher, because I think the big name publishers are actually the problem here, because they just keep bloating the expenses, and then they're not willing to take the risks. When you have a smaller studio, a smaller team without those big guys involved, your EAs, your Activisions formerly, I'm going to say, your Xbox, and et cetera, they keep their budgets in line, and I think this is how Nintendo operates as well. And there's so many games like that. Baldur's Gate 3 is another great example of that. Clair Obscur is going to fall in that similar company. It's these, I don't want to call them AA games, because I think they're probably a little more high budget than a AA game. But again, they don't have that overarching publisher there, watching their every move, because you spent nine figures to develop a game and you can't take risks, and you have to make a game for everyone. A game for everyone is a game for no one. Now, with that said, how do we, as gamers, not get borked by the AAA machine? There are a lot of ways to find discounts in video games, and I'm just going to talk about a few of them. Now, I primarily play on PC, so I'm only really going to talk about the PC aspect of this. Though there are, I'm sure, a dozen ways to do this on console. I'm just not as familiar with sales on consoles. The only console I've really been invested in the last 10 years is the Switch, and even then, not as much as of late. But anyway, as we look at this, my first recommendation is Humble Bundles. Humble Bundles, Humble Choice. They're about $13 a month, or you can get different game bundles. They release new bundles every week or two, and usually these bundles aren't very expensive. Like if I pull up this one now, there's one, they call it, I guess they changed it. They called it Doom and Wolfenstein Mayhem. They added new games to it. It was It and Friends a few days ago when I last looked at it. Oh, cool, but they've added some new games, it looks like. It was just before, it was just all of the Doom games, like the whole collection, except for the VR ones, which they've added Doom VFR, and then the Wolfenstein main three games, but they've added Youngbloods, and then they added the VR Wolfenstein game. If you haven't played the VR Wolfenstein game, it's actually really good. And then they also added the Season Pass for Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal was already there. Like, they're both Wolfenstein games, a coupon for Doom the Dark Ages. And there's a lot here. This is a great bundle for $28. And it's going to get you some, if you're an FPS fan, it's going to get you some really good shooters, some really good games. Yeah, they're all a little older, but I think that's how you combat this one way. There's also the XCOM Complete Collection. If you're someone like me who likes strategy games and tactical games, you get the entire XCOM series. That's great. And again, you're gonna get the whole thing for $10. These will keep you busy for months, years if you really want them to. Then you have Tycoon Titans. These are more like city builders and management kind of sims. These are cool. Frostpunk is actually really cool. I spent a little bit of time with it, though I didn't dive deep into it. But what I played of it, I really liked. And then other just tycoon style games if you're into those. Like I said, not my no, I'm not the biggest expert on that, so I'm not going to talk about that one. And these are just, like I said, a couple of just examples. This one looks to be newer. I think I haven't looked at this one. I don't even know what these particular games I'm not sure about. You do have to be careful about what you're looking at when you look at humble bundles. Don't just buy the bundle because it's cheap. Pay attention to what it is. I don't know this bundle. I'm not going to dig too deep into it. It's just not for me. But then there's also this Metroidvania bundle. I did buy this Metroidvania bundle. Just there's some really good stuff in here that I've been interested in. Mostly Berserk Boy, Grime, and Shantae and the Seven Sirens. Gato Robo always also looked interesting. So these are games I've seen and just look interesting to me. So I'm trying those too. And again, you're going to get the whole bundle for $14 for 8 games. That's just one option. We haven't even gotten into everything, but humble bundles and then humble choice. But yeah, humble bundles, they switch up every 2 weeks. I bought into this humble choice as well, as you can see, and this was 8 games here. I just claimed them all. I was mostly after Tomb Raider, and Diplomacy is not an option, though I'll try these other guys too. It was $13. $13, and it changes every month. But there's more. Prime Gaming. If you're someone like me, I already subscribe to Amazon Prime. So they give you these games every week. It switches out. It's usually a mix of AAA and indie titles. Again, sometimes they're older, sometimes they're newer. Microsoft has been giving out stuff, as you can see. But if you look here, and this is just what they've been giving out like the last 30 days. They're usually GOG keys, or this little crown is for the Amazon Prime launcher itself. But most of these are GOG keys. You get a couple Epic keys in there. None of them are for Steam. They used to give out Steam keys, but they've stopped. Now these two are actually 2 games I was actually looking for and looking forward to. They're 2 RPGs. And when I saw they were coming there, I was like, ooh, I was getting ready to buy these. So I saved money there already. And there's just a lot of different games here. I've been interested in the Talos Principle. I just never got it. Through this program, actually, I got all of the BioShock games. I got all of the Elder Scrolls games except for Skyrim for GOG. Ironically, Berserk Boys also here. I was talking about in the Humble Bundle. I bought the Humble Bundle, and then the next day saw Berserk Boy given away on this program. I got all of the Mafia games as well through this program. And like these change every week, so it's just another way to get some games in there. I don't want to call them free because obviously you have to have Prime, but they don't cost you anything extra. So I think this is a great deal if you're somebody like me who already just subscribes to Amazon Prime. There's GG deals, and there's also Is There Any Deal too. I'm using GG deals because they do include console prices as well as PC, though like I said, I'm going to mostly focus on PC. So if we go over to PCCC, you can already get Expedition 33 for $33, and they show all kinds of different deals on games. They'll keep up with your wish list as well. You see Jedi Survivor, if you're interested in that, is $14. The game is a year and a half old. I see no problem with waiting when you get a deal like that. And there's just so many other deals like that's all Mass Effect. If you've never played Mass Effect, this is my favorite series of all time, so I'm gonna gush a little bit, but. This game is $6 right now on Steam. It's an incredible deal. $6. I've beaten this game, played it so many times. I have the 100% of it on Steam. Play Mass Effect is $6. 3 games, full DLC, full everything. Very, very well worth it. Very well received classic series, and it's $6 for the main trilogy. There is Andromeda. That's the 4th game. It's separate. Not as highly loved or not as critically acclaimed, but it's not. I don't think it's a terrible game. I just think it's really kind of average, and it launched really poorly. Anyway, other deals. The Epic Game Store. Yeah, Epic isn't always the greatest. Most of us don't like Epic on PC, but it is an option, and they usually give out 1 or 2 free games a week. You just gotta go in there, check it out, see, hey, is this something you want or is it not? Some people love Epic, some people don't, but it is an option for those of you that want it. And then there's Game Pass. I mean, Game Pass for PC is $10 a month, and like they're showing you, hey, here's some of the highlight games that we have on Game Pass, and it's $10 per month. I personally am not subbed to Game Pass. I've subbed to it in the past, and I think the service is okay. I just didn't do it because I have a huge backlog. I have a huge backlog of games, so I don't feel the need to buy into Game Pass. But I do think it's a solid deal. They give out so many great deals for great discounts. I'm just going to wait for the games to individually go on sale while I get through my backlog. That's kind of why I don't use Game Pass. Otherwise, if I didn't have such a big backlog, I'd be all over this. So that's generally how I go about it. I mean, and then there's always the elephant in the room, piracy. Like that, I'd be naive to not acknowledge that that is an option. Is it the best option? I mean, that kind of depends on you, but it is a choice if you want it to be. So you look at all of these different things, and you see kind of the arrogance of the games industry to say, hey, we're going to charge you $80. What is it, 2-3 years after 70 kind of became the standard, and people were still struggling with it a little bit. Hell, 60 is still kind of the standard on PC. Most places still charge 60, and I personally find $60 is still too much for a video game. Just for the condition they launch in and just the slop that's there for AAA video games. I mean, I'll pay $20 for a critically acclaimed game, and I'm basing that on most of my favorite smaller independent indie games are about $20-$30. And that's if I didn't catch them on a sale. Sometimes I'll catch them on sale for $5. So, and these are like fantastic games. They're just made by small teams that actually focus on quality, and I mean, when I say quality, I mean beyond visuals, like quality of the gameplay, quality of the level design, quality in the writing. You might not always get voice acting, but you still get a great story. You have RPGs that actually respect your choices, and and these smaller indie games, in my opinion, still respect you so much as a player, where modern games do not. And as where I would say modern AAA games do not. So in my opinion, indies are the way to go. If you're going to do AAA, wait for it in a giveaway, do it on Game Pass, something like that. But even then, I would kind of ignore it because that's how you keep your games cheap. Because when you play these indies or you wait for these discounted games, they're always older. You can get away with playing them on something like a $400 Steam Deck. These games are perfect for somebody still on like an RTX 2060 or probably even a 1060 at this point. You can use some really low power hardware because it doesn't take a lot to make a good video game. And in terms of technology, you just have to know how to make something that's appealing to people. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Of course, if you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching.